OK, pnawn da. Cynghorydd Julie Fallon ydw i, a fi ydi arweinydd y cyngor. Gai groesawu pawb I cyfarfod. The meeting will be live streamed and recorded and will be available for viewing after the meeting. Should the live stream fail, the meeting will continue and a recording will be available through the Council's website following the conclusion of the meeting. Can I remind members that translation facilities are available? If you want to make use of this facility, please select the English language option on the microphone delegate unit if you are in the council chamber, and for those attending remotely by clicking the audio settings tab and selecting English. For those wishing to speak, please press your microphone push to speak. Is that still what we're doing, or are we raising hands?
I can't do that yet.
Yeah, I think actually we'll maybe raise hands for today if you wish to speak, and I'll keep looking. But obviously, if you're online, you can press the push to speak button. I think it might help in terms of some of the ongoing issues we're having with the audio. So yeah, just indicate to me when you wish to speak, and then just press your button when it comes to your turn, and we'll try that. Do not use the yellow hand function at home. This should only be used if you wish to raise a point of order. Can I ask that cabinet members put their mics on first? Okay, so that's the opposite of what I was saying. So no, we'll go with what I said. In order to maintain your place in the queue, when asking a question, please your microphone. So again, that's still the same thing. So yeah, as I said, raise your hands. For those attending remotely, please note that those in the chamber will be unable to see the chat facility. Remote attendees, if you do need to leave the meeting temporarily, pop a message in the chat function so that Democratic Services officers are aware, and then let us know when you return. I expect everybody present and participating in this meeting to conduct themselves appropriately, to be respectful of each other, and that applies to members, officers, and members of the press or public. Okay, so we'll go on to the agenda. Item 1, apologies for absence.
Apologies received, Councillor Julie, from Councillor Kay Radhead and Councillor Aaron Wynne.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Item 2, declarations of interest. I'm going to bring Matt in to just explain some of that for today.
Thank you, Leader. Just note that we have a number of matters on the agenda relating to specific schools and one that relates to schools more generally. So, in terms of the specific schools for agenda items 9, 1, 2 and 3, any local education appointed governors on those schools will have a personal interest only, and that's because of an exemption under the Members' Code of Conduct that says if you are nominated by the council, then those interests will not be prejudicial. In respect of any councillors, so far as there are any, who are governors in another capacity, that exemption wouldn't apply. So if there are any members here who are governors in another capacity, then the interest is likely to be both personal and prejudicial. And then in respect of agenda item 9.4, which is strategy for modernising learning communities, which is going to relate to generally most of the schools, if not all, in the authority area, then all school governors, no matter what capacity they're a governor in, are likely to have just a personal interest. So if we have any governors at all, perhaps you can declare accordingly.
Okay, great. Thanks, Matt. So, Dilwyn?
Hoffi datgelu diddordeb cadeirydd yn y ffaith y mod I yn aelod o reolwyr ysgol Sbytifan ar ran y cyngor ac hefyd yn Betws Coed hefyd ar ran y cyngor. So, dim ond diddordeb personol yn unig. Diolch yn fawr.
Iawn, diolch. Anybody else? No? Okay. In which case, hang on 1 second. We will move on. Item 3, urgent matters. No. Okay. Item 4, minutes of the Cabinet, which you'll find on pages 3 to 8. Can I have a proposer for the minutes? Okay. Councillor Stephen and Councillor Chris has seconded. Can I just have a show of hands that those minutes are accurate? Thank you. Okay, announcements by the leader, item 5. I'd just like to take the opportunity to say thank you to the town councils for the work they've done around remembrance parades, services over the Sunday Remembrance Day, and then this morning as well. I went along Sunday to the Conway Remembrance Parade, and it was a real honour. And this morning, myself and the cabinet members went along just here to the War Memorial, I believe it's called, as opposed to a cenotaph. So, and again, the town council from Colwyn Bay were there leading that short service. So, just many thanks to them. And thanks to Councillor Hannah for mentioning that before. Town councils do a great deal of good at that across the county in giving us the opportunity, giving us the opportunity. And town and community councils, forgive me. Yes, oh dear, I'd have dropped myself, into trouble there. Town and community councils across the county, giving us the opportunity to take the time to remember and appreciate people who've served for their country. So massive thanks to them. Over to the Chief Executive. No, okay. Item 7, pages 9 to 31, you'll see the forward work programme. Is there anything specific anyone would like to raise? No, in which case, could I have a show of hands that you're happy with that? Okay. I don't need a proposal, do I? No. Okay. In which case, we'll go on to item 8, which is in the environments, roads and infrastructure, to get used to that instead of facilities. So we've got the Plasandre development, which you'll find on pages 32 to 40. And I think we're going to have Councillor Mike Priestley and Sharon Dolman present on this. Over to you, Mike.
Thank you very much. Yeah, quite right. This report crosses 2 portfolios. I'll specifically talk about the depot relocation at Plasandre, and then I'll hand over to Councillor Sharon Dolman, who will talk about the key strategic site that the depot sits upon. I'll be fairly brief, Chair, in the fact that this report is looking for approval for the next steps for Plasandre development and the depot location. The next step will be to submit a planning application following pre-application consultation for the relocation of the depot, and to commission a development master plan to include market testing, community consultation. I hope I'm not standing on Councillor Sharon's toes here. And obviously looking to identify funding. We basically want this, and I was talking to Councillor Chris this morning about shovel-ready projects, Chris, and this is what we're aiming to do with this project, is to have something ready to go if the funding is available. So the report has had the backing from, well, since 2016, and you can see that the journey it's taken over them years on page 39, paragraph 311. And this was supported by the recommendations were supported by economy and place scrutiny, and has the full support of local members. I will propose that we support recommendations in paragraph 2.2 on page 33 of this report. What I would like to do before handing over to Councillor Sharon is I'd just like to reiterate what I said in my comments, which you can find on page 37. And basically what I've written there is I support better, more modern facilities for our staff that work hard delivering services to our rural communities. I feel by continuing with this long established project, and with all the support that it has, especially by local members, that we should have plans in place ready to go if grant funding becomes available at short notice. I did note and have noted the cost of the new depot will exceed the 2016 estimate, and that was 3 million. But until we've done all this work, we won't have the true costs. But as I say, we will be looking towards grant funding to take that forward. So without further ado, if I could hand over to my colleague, Councillor Sharon.
Thank you, Councillor Mike. Well, I endorse everything Councillor Mike has said about the first part of the proposal. The second part of the proposal is what we do with the Plassendrare site once we have relocated the council's depot. And this is a really exciting development for Llanrwst and the wider Conwy Valley. Plassendrare is right in the centre of town. It's been part of the Llanrwst Town Regeneration Programme, where we have relocated the library to Glastier, which is a real hub for the community. The relocation of the depot will give us an opportunity to further develop that site. We will seek partners and stakeholders to redevelop the site, and it will be of enormous economic benefit to Llanrwst, which is the beating heart of the Conwy Valley, and also the wider rural community. There are some excellent businesses already trading in Llanrwst, and this development will further enhance what the town has to offer, really reinforcing the town as a lively hub for the whole of the Conwy Valley. So I would like to second Councillor Mike's proposal that we go with the recommendations as outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike and Sharon, for that information there. Completely agree. It's a great opportunity, and whilst it's taken some time, it's good that we're at this point now, and we have the opportunity to go out and look at, as Mike said, what the cost may be, you know, some 9 years later, and what opportunities there may be for the community of Llanrwst and the wider community. Have we any other comments or questions? No? Okay, in which case we've had... Oh, Councillor Cheryl online, apologies. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, thanks very much for letting me speak, Leader. Just a quick question. Have we explored taking units in the industrial estate in terms of a cheaper option? That was my only question. Diolch.
I'm going to hand this one over to Andy Wilkinson, who's in the room, Cheryl, because, as I say, this has been quite a project. I know we've looked at a number of parcels of land, but as regards to that industrial estate, Andy, if you could fill Cheryl in, please.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Councillor Cheryl. It's a good question. We have, as Councillor Mike says, done extensive land search, which has been refreshed on a number of occasions as there are perhaps whispers or actual opportunities arising. We've explored them. The industrial estate and the units on there, unfortunately, wouldn't have be of the size and type required for this depot. Bearing in mind the size of salt dome we would need to build, and the amount of hard standing we would need around that for the depot. But we have looked at it, and we'll continue to look at opportunities as they arise. But for now, we are looking at one preferred site.
Thank you. Cheryl, did you want to come back? Are you happy with that? Okay. In which case, as I was saying before, we've had a proposer and a seconder. So could I ask that we open the vote, please? Okay, and could we close the vote? Okay, so that was unanimous. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Liz.
May I just say that I'm really pleased that this recommendation, as the Cabinet have approved this recommendation. It has been a long haul. I think I've been on the journey from the very word go with ERF and the team, and I'm really pleased that we've got to this stage. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, Liz. Okay, so you may have heard before that we had apologies from Councillor Aron, so I will be stepping in today to cover the education portfolio, something I'm relatively familiar with. So we'll go on to item 9, which is the consultation outcome report on the proposed amalgamation of Yscol T Gwyn Jones and Yscol I Hen Galwyn, which you'll find on pages 41 to 57. Excuse me. So the purpose of the report is to consider the outcome of the consultation on the proposed amalgamation, as I said, of Yscol T Gwyn Jones and Hen Galwyn, and to seek Cabinet approval to proceed to the next stage of the process, which is to issue a statutory notice. The proposal will see a junior and infant school in the area come together as one school in the name and structure, but remain on separate sites. In your agenda pack this afternoon is the consultation feedback paper for this proposal. At the meeting on the 13th of May 2025, Conwy County Borough Council's Cabinet granted approval to proceed to consult on the proposal to amalgamate Yscol Hen Galwyn and Yscol T Gwyn Jones. The period of consultation commenced on the 3rd of June 25 and concluded on the 15th of July. The consultation followed the School Organisation Code guidelines and included consultation with the learners themselves, with local councillors, and have shared their views directly through the consultation. The feedback and concluding report is part of your agenda pack this afternoon. Evidence shows that all through primary schools, you'll have to forgive me, I still have this horrible cold lingering, which is typical with 4 reports to present this afternoon, but I'll do my best. So evidence shows that all through primary schools provide a richer and more varied curriculum experience for their children. This enables progress to be more sustained throughout the school, ensuring there is good achievement throughout the whole school. The curriculum can be planned to sequentially build upon knowledge and skills acquired in previous years, and it can have a positive impact on learners when they transition from infants to juniors. Children also benefit from having role models of older children throughout the school, allowing them to aspire to leadership roles. An amalgamated primary school will provide benefits for families such as consistent school uniform, school events such as parents' evenings and performances. In addition, parents would no longer have to go through the admissions process to apply for a place in year 3, but automatically feed through to the junior phase of a primary school. The recommendation following analysing the feedback and from scrutiny committee is to continue with the amalgamation. So I'm happy to propose that the issuing of the statutory notice to formally amalgamate Yscol T Gwyn Jones and Yscol Hen Galwyn be approved, and I will open it up for comments or questions. Councillor Stephen.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I'm more than happy to second your proposal. I visited the school just before the consultation began, and they were all very excited about the future of the school in the coming years. So more than happy to second it.
Great stuff, thank you. Any further comments or questions? Councillor Hannah.
It's just lovely to see such positive feedback on the consultation and children and parents genuinely excited about all working together as one school. It's really nice to see.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. I've had the opportunity to visit. I've gone with the local member and visited the school, and yeah, it's very clear that this is something that families want, that the school wants, and it's something that I think is going to add real value. So yeah, I agree. It's great to see that positive feedback come through the consultation. Okay, if there's no further comments or questions, then we've had a proposer and a seconder. So could I ask that we open the vote, please? Okay, can we close the vote? Okay, so that was unanimous. Thank you. So on to item 9.2, which is to start the statutory process of determining the potential closure of Ysgol Ysbyty Ifan. So today you'll have two papers in your agenda. You've got item 9.2 and 9.3, asking to consider starting a consultation on the proposal to close 2 of our primary schools in Conway. So as part of the Welsh Government School Organisation Code, it's important to draw your attention to the current situation in both of those schools. So the School Standards and Organisation Act from 2013 requires Welsh ministers to publish the School Organisation Code, which sets out requirements that relevant bodies, including local authorities, must comply with. Section 1.5, the Education Resources, states that education funding must be cost effective. Local authorities should consider factors such as the impact proposals will have on surplus places in the area. Some surplus places are necessary to manage fluctuations in pupil numbers, but too many surplus places waste resources unnecessarily. If there are more than 10% surplus places in an area overall, local authorities should review provision and consider proposals to remove them if this would be efficiently and would improve efficiency rather and effectiveness. A significant level of surplus provision is defined as 25% or more of school capacity and at least 30 empty places. The 2025 pupil level annual school census shows that primary school numbers in Conway have fallen by 229 pupils, and it's forecasted to decline further next year. The average year group in Key Stage 2 is 1,083 compared to 977 in the foundation phase. The number of classes has declined over the past 4 years. So in 2022, it was 350. In 23, it was 347. 24, it was 336. And this year, it's 326. So that's a drop of 24 classes. We must consider the impact of this on data on our education provision in Conway. So under section 2.4 of the code, local authorities may propose to establish, discontinue or make regulated changes to community nursery schools or maintained nursery schools. The only decision Cabinet will make today is whether to start a consultation or not. The information on both schools is available to you in your agenda pack. If agreed, starting the consultation will be the opportunity to listen, to hear directly from families, from staff, governors, learners, and the wider community as a whole. Your voices matter. This is about working together to find the best way forward. Any feedback will be considered in the next report at a future meeting, which will go to the education scrutiny, and then it will come here to Cabinet. If Cabinet agrees to begin consultation, Conway will publish a report summarising all comments received along with our responses. A draft timetable is included in 3.6 of your report. To repeat, the only decision we're considering today is whether we should start the consultation. To start the statutory process of determining the potential closure of Ysgol Ysbyty Ifan is the first item on the agenda, item 9.2. The scrutiny recommendation is to commence the consultation. So I will recommend that the approval be granted to proceed to consultation to consider the potential closure of Ysgol Ysbyty Ifan. And I'll open it up to members for any comments or questions. Okay, we've got Cynghorydd Dilwyn. Diolch. And then Gronwy.
Diolch, Arweinydd. Dydy hon ddim yn set gyfforddus i fod nista ni heddiw. Ddim mwy na fasa fo unrhyw gynghorydd arall. Ond dwi yn meddwl na'r ffordd deca ymlaen ydy rhoi cyfle i'r gymuned i gael rhoi i barn a bod ni yn ystyried hynny yn ofalus pan gawn ni'r canlyniadau. Da ni gyd yn ymwybodol na ymgynghoriad ydy hwn, ac dwi yn bendant yn cefnogi'r ffaith bod o'n deg ac yn iawn i'r gymuned gael rhoi i barn ar dyfodol fel ma'n hwn i gweld i. Diolch fawr iawn.
Diolch, Lewin. Cynghorydd Gronwy.
Diolch, Leader. I'm slightly, well, more than slightly concerned that, considering the long discussion that went on in scrutiny the other night, that this report comes to us in the form it does. There's obviously 3 schools here that will be affected.
So we're actually talking about Ysgol Ysbyty Ifan currently,
yeah,
Gronwy.
We're talking about this report. I'm surprised we're talking about them in isolation.
No, this is Ysgol Ysbyty Ifan. You're
I know.
talking about Betws that's in a federation with 2 other
I'm
schools.
talking about the school provision in rural areas in general.
Okay.
And I feel that this is a far from a holistic approach to the situation. It's almost death by 1,000 cuts as far as I'm concerned. I've seen it happen in my own ward in Caerhyn, where first Rowen and then Talabont. I think we need to go back and look at a far more holistic approach to the provision of education in this rural area, because the process in itself can be so damaging to the communities that are affected by these decisions that it needs to be a far broader consultation on the future provision of schools in that location.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments or questions? Councillor Chris.
Thank you, Leader. I think as I've got the finance portfolio, I do have to comment that we have to seriously look at the cost per pupils that has been put before us here, 15,000, compared to an average in the county of 5,000. It would be remiss of us not to be considering the future of schools that are costing us this amount per pupil. I don't like it, but at the end of the day, as finance cabinet member, I'm grappling with a large deficit, and we have to provide a balanced budget at the end of the day to keep this authority going. So it is a resource issue. I know there will be other benefits towards amalgamating schools. At scrutiny, I listened very carefully to Dr. Lowry Brown, who put the case very much for the fact that there is a sort of minimum pupil number that really is best for a child's education in a school. I don't know whether Dr. Lowry would like to comment on that here to us in Cabinet, but certainly, tiny schools are often not the best environment for education, and there is the financial aspect, which is my focus, but there is the other focus of the quality of the children's education. If I could lead into that, Dr. Lowry, thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Lowry.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Chris, and thanks, Leader, for letting me speak. Just to reinforce, we have a statutory duty to review our school footprint. We have also a statutory duty to consider the PLASC return, which the Leader referred to in her opening presentation, and we do this in line with the Welsh Government School Organisation Code. So when we see that numbers are dropping, that the projected numbers aren't healthy enough to sustain a school or a number of schools, we have a duty to undertake an information gathering exercise and bring it to the attention of elected members in order for them to make an informed decision about the next step. So we haven't operated outside of any Welsh Government guidance here. I think it is seen as good practice having those strategic discussions with elected members, which we have been doing as part of the Strategic School Planning Group, which the Leader chaired, which there were a number of elected members part of that. And of course this now, the request to open a consultation, and that's all we're doing. The request to open a consultation is really the end of those discussions that have been happening over a number of months.
Thank you, Lowry. Councillor Mike.
Yeah, thank you for that. And so really, I'm just looking for assurance that all due process has taken place, and we're basically making a decision today. At the end of that due process, is the next step is just going out to consultation.
So the decision that you need to consider today is whether you as elected members or cabinet want to open a consultation on the proposal to close Ysgol Ysbyty Ifan. Of course, then we need to get the feedback as part of that consultation, and that consultation will be pushed out to all stakeholders, not only in Conway, but neighbouring local authorities, head teachers, governors, parents, and also learners. And we strongly encourage everybody to provide feedback and give their views as part of that. We will then consider the feedback, and we will then put recommendations to education and skill scrutiny, and then following on to cabinet.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Mike. Councillor David Carr, online.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I very much agree with Gromway that maybe when I was living in the Conway Valley, living in Kyrene, when the schools in the valley were closed, and it did have a significant impact. I think the heart of the community, the hub of the community of these schools, and I think they do promote cohesion, and they retain families in the area. But on Chris's point about costs, then there are relocation costs that we'd have to pay, and more transport costs. And I think we need to take those into account when we look at closing those schools. But I think there are economic arguments for keeping these schools open. And I think we need to listen to them. I'm happy to go ahead with the consultation, but I think it's got to be a genuine consultation that we do actually listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor David Carr, for your comments. Okay, so I've proposed... Cynghorydd Dilwyn, did you... No. Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to
second.
We're only going out to consultation.
Okay. So, yes, so it's the approval, just to clarify, that approval be granted to proceed to consultation to consider the potential closure of Ysgol Ysbyty Ifan. So I've proposed, Councillor Stephen has seconded. Could we open the vote, please? Okay, and close the vote. Thank you, Bedwin. Okay, so that was unanimous. Thank you, members. So on to item 9.3, which is to start the statutory process of determining the possible closure of Ysgol Betws-y-Coed. And obviously, I've touched on this already, but to be more specific, there is detailed information on this proposal in your agenda packs. Scrutiny's recommendation was to defer the paper. I do appreciate Scrutiny's comments, but see no reason why we should not proceed with the consultation as it stands. I feel that was a question or query around the process, which Dr. Lowry is going to come in a minute and just explain in terms of the interaction with the governing body. A consultation, as I said, will provide opportunity for everybody to formally record their views, comments and observations before we make a decision on the future of Ysgol Betws-y-Coed. Any additional information stakeholders want Cabinet to consider that isn't in the consultation document, this is the opportunity to let us know. And the consultation will commence towards the end of November, start of December, and will be well publicised and shared with all the stakeholder groups that I mentioned before. Okay, so I'm going to, before I open it up for discussion, ask Dr. Lowry Brown to just come in and explain a little bit around the process that led us to here. Thanks, Lowry.
Diolch yn fawr Arweinydd, a dwi am droi i'r Gymraeg. Felly diolch am roi cyfle hefyd i mi siarad heddiw a cynnig ychydig o gyd-destun i'r data a'r wybodaeth da ni fel swyddogion wedi i'w gyflwyno i Gorff Llywodraethol Ffederasiwn Capel Coed Elan. Ac yn gyntaf, hoffwn ddiolch yn fawr iawn i aelodau'r Corff Llywodraethol am eu cydweithrediad a'i parodrwydd i drafod, a hynny o dan amgylchiadau anodd a sensitif dros ben. Felly yn sgil yr wybodaeth a gyflwynwyd fel rhan o'r datganiad plasg 24, Ysgol Betws y Coed oedd yn cael ei nodi bod yr ysgol yn gweithredu ar 14% o'r capacity a bod ganddi 86 llefydd gwag, lleoedd gwag heb ei lenwi. A felly, oedd o'n ofynnol i swyddogion y gwasanaeth addysg i weithio gyda'r corff llywodraethol mewn perthynas ar lefel sylweddol o leoedd dros ben a'i cynlluniau i fynd i'r afal â hyn. A fel rhan o'r gwaith hwn, rhannodd swyddogion yr gwasanaeth addysg effeithiau a'r wybodaeth canlynol gyda'r corff llywodraethol. Gofynion y cod trefniadaeth ysgolion yng Nghymru, sef gofynion y School Organisation Code, gwybodaeth am niferoedd y disgyblion, capacity a lleoedd heb ei llenwi ynghyd â defnydd yr ysgol o'r adeilad ar gyfer y dair ysgol, cymhareb disgybl athro, y pupil teacher ratio, o'i gymharu â chyfartaledd Conwy a Chymru, niferoedd staff addysgu a staff cymorth, gyfwerth ag amser llawn y dair ysgol, sef y full-time equivalents, cost fesul disgybl y dair ysgol o'i gymharu â chyfartaledd Conwy a Chymru, 23 o ysgolion cyngradd yng Nghymru gyda cost fesul disgybl o dros 10,000 gyda tair ysgol o fewn y ffederasiwn yn rhan o'r data hwn, ac hefyd rhag amcan o niferoedd disgyblion o 2026 i 2030 ar ffurf tabl ar gyfer y dair ysgol. Felly dwi'n mawr obeithio bod y trosolwg cynhwysfawr hwn a'r wybodaeth a rannwyd gyda'r corff llywodraethol yn dangos i chi ein bod fel swyddogion wedi cyflwyno'r data a'r wybodaeth cyflawn i'r corff llywodraethol ar gyfer y dair ysgol o fewn y ffederasiwn, mwyn i'w cynorthwyo nhw fel corff i wneud penderfyniad strategol ar gyfer y ffederasiwn a'i dysgwyr. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch, Lowri. Cynghorydd Dilwyn.
Diolch fawr arweinydd. Unwaith eto dydy hon i'm yn sedd cyfforddus. Ond mae'n amgylchiadau yn codi lle mae rhywun yn gorfod ystyried yn ddwys ac am y rhesymau ydych chi wedi rhoi pan ydych chi'n cynnig yr argymellion, dwi'n fodlon eilio hynny. Achos dwi'n meddwl bod o yn deg unwaith eto i'r gymuned a'r gymuned ehangach gael ei barn ac y byddwn ni yn tro yn ystyried hwnnw. Felly dwi'n eilio yr cynnig arweinydd. Diolch yn fawr chi.
Diolch, Dilwyn. Okay, have we any further comments or questions? Cynghorydd Liz.
Chris Kate put his hand up.
Okay, Cynghorydd Chris. Gyntaf.
Sorry. Yes. I just wanted to ask Dr. Lowri Brown, because in the resource implications of the report, it has the cost per pupil of 20,856. Is this for Ysgol Betws y Coed, or is this for the federation of the three schools?
For Betws y Coed.
That's for Betws y Coed, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Cynghorydd Liz.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. I would just like to share Councillor Dilwyn's thoughts in that such discussions are very emotive discussions and not easy. And it doesn't matter what a councillor, an elected councillor in a locality, doesn't matter what decision what actions we take, we will be blamed no matter what we do. So we are in difficult positions as elected members. But I thank you for letting me speak today. But I would have respected the education officers answering all of my queries and my address at scrutiny and enabling the elected members present to have a little bit more information and insight, because as councillors, our role is to be challenging and challenging of a process. And that is what I did. And so I was not aware, as I said at Cabinet, that this paper was coming to Cabinet. And so therefore, I was made to feel vulnerable out in the community, because I'm now, you know, people in the community will say, well, why didn't you speak to the school? I didn't know. I couldn't approach the school. So I've been put in a very vulnerable position because my comments weren't asked for in the report. Councillor Dilwyn's were put in the report. So I've shared with the headmistress and chair of governors yesterday, because they asked me, why didn't I go to speak to them? Because I didn't know to go and speak to them. So I think it's important in this that if we are to do this, the process has to be correct, and we have to make sure that we do it correctly. Hence my request for a deferment for more information and clarity to be provided by 2 scrutiny members. I make this statement as I don't wish, as a member of the Education Scrutiny Committee, if it would appear that this kind of unfair process for potential federalised schools to be closed, or individual schools. Will education be asking a possible federal body now of possible 2 schools to make a decision then which school to close next? That's going to put them in a very, very difficult position if we follow the same process that we have followed this time. Rural schools, and Ascaron, we started to speak, in my opinion, I fear are in peril, because if we look at the cost per pupil, we know the cost of the pupils for Ysbyty, we know the cost per pupils for Betws y Coed, but we don't know the cost of pupils for other schools. Have they risen as much in the other schools in rural areas? We don't know. So I think rural schools, in my opinion, we need to be looking at how we have a discussion around closures, because if we are to address the issue in the modernisation for community learning agenda, of which you are going to be discussing the paper at the next report, we have to make sure that rural schools will be considered. Otherwise, rural schools will be shut one by one. And so there are no winners in this, no winners at all. But thank you for listening and letting me speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Liz. And I completely share your sentiments around how sensitive a subject this is and how difficult it is. You know, in an ideal world, money would be in abundance and Welsh Government would be able to protect some of the smaller schools. But obviously we're discussing a very small school today, and it is in the top 3 in terms of cost per pupil of all schools, primary schools in Wales. So I think, you know, as Councillor Chris has already mentioned, as the finance portfolio holder, you know, it wouldn't be right for us to not look at possible options here. And I think for me, that engagement and consultation with the community is the fair way to do it. I would apologise, Liz, if it is that you weren't notified, but there are... Right, okay. And I can only say that I'll learn from that. Obviously, I'm new in post as leader in terms of ensuring that local members are notified. I think, you know, Councillor Dilwyn being on the governing body, you know, I should have really thought on to contact you. I know we have had discussions around this in the past on a number of occasions, but yes, I can only apologise for that. Obviously, in terms of Cabinet, we've got some comments from you on the Cabinet agenda today, but appreciate that those comments weren't there in terms of scrutiny. But yes, certainly from my perspective, I think that it's fair to give the community, as I mentioned before, to give the learners, the families, the staff, the community as a whole, the opportunity to be able to comment on this. We're not making a decision today around the closure of either of these schools. This is the opportunity for for comments, and they will come back to us either in February or March, and that's when we'll have the opportunity to look at things. And in terms of consultation that's already taken place with the schools themselves, it's not something that we have to do to engage to that extent with governing bodies, but it's something that we go over and above and do as an education department, and I think that that's a good thing that we do. And I think offering them the opportunity to put forward what their preference is certainly isn't done in any other way other than giving them the voice to be able to share that with members in terms of them being able to make an informed decision around the opportunity to go out to consult. So you know, I certainly don't see it as them making the decision. I think that decision we know is made by Cabinet, but it's their opportunity to give us, I guess, a steer in a way as a governing body as to what they thought the right way forward was. So I'm happy that we go out to consult, as I said. So to that, bear with me 1 second. Let me just go to it in the report. So that we as a Cabinet recommend to commence consultation to consider the potential closure of Ysgol Betws-y-Coed. I've got Councillor Paul that wants to come in before I ask for a seconder of that. Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Chair and Leader. Today, the Cabinet's just resolving whether to go out to consultation, so I'm acknowledging that right at the beginning. But I do think the settled will of people in Conway has changed and is changing in relation to small schools, whether Welsh medium or English medium small schools. And I think that's inevitable in the present circumstances in which we live. I've battled quite hard since I was elected to get the information about the costs of schools and the PLASC numbers into the public domain, and it's been a difficult task. Every year the Welsh Government does publish the cost per pupil. That information is in the public domain. I personally think Conway hasn't publicised that information as I would have liked it to be published, and also the same in relation to the PLASC numbers and the surplus unfilled places. Because I do think, and I hope this is in the public domain now, that the people, as we consult them about whether it's amalgamations of schools, federations of schools, or closures of schools, it is vitally important that our residents have the hard facts. And I don't think that they have historically had the hard facts. And I hope from now on that in our reports annually about what's happening with the school estates, the full information about the individual costs in each school and the surplus and unfilled places are in our reports, because I think that that is our responsibility to our residents, and then they can make their views known, and obviously we'll still have to arbitrate on those views, but I worry that historically we haven't always done that, and I would welcome us doing that going forward. And I fully support this going out to consultation now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. Councillor Louise. Oh no, we're having the same issue. Your sound is off. It's because you've press the yellow button. So it's not your microphone. Press the red or the request to speak, the mic, which is in the bottom. There you go. Sean will tell you where to press it.
Yeah, Councillor Louise, it's like the shape of a face with like volume coming out of it. It's at the bottom of the screen.
Okay.
Is it?
There we go. You're
Yeah,
working. We
okay.
can hear you. Thank you.
I always like to be in the room because clearly I can't manage it online. And it's been a bit of a nightmare getting the link today, but I won't worry about that. So I've managed to listen to the meeting online just about at work. And I think, as I say, I seconded Liz's proposal because I always listen to the local member and I've listened to her concerns today. But I appreciate this is the consultation. The problem with that is when you agree a consultation to close a school, it's kind of a deaf nail for the school anyway, isn't it, really? So I really hope this is an opportunity for people to perhaps voice their concerns about why we're closing Better Sequoia over the other ones, which was my concern, and I didn't understand that. But I've come in very late to the discussion because of the problems with IT. So obviously I'm happy to support Liz, but the consultation obviously now needs to go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Louise. Paul, could you turn your microphone off, please? Thank you. Yeah, and obviously, Louise, in terms of us having that wider discussion of any of those things, then once the consultation is complete, it will come back to Education Scrutiny and Cabinet. It will either be February or March, and we can then go into some further discussion around. I should imagine there'll be a number of options that will be available to us, and we can have a wide discussion on those. Okay, so if we don't have any further comments or questions, which we don't appear to, so I have proposed, Cynghorydd Dilwyn has seconded, so could we open the vote, please? Okay, and could we close the vote? Thanks, Bedwin. Okay, and that was unanimous again. Thank you, members. Okay, so on to item 9.4, which you'll be glad to hear is my last item, and my throat will certainly be glad to hear it. Okay, so this is the strategy for modernising learning communities, which you'll find on pages 98 to 140. So the current strategy for the modernisation of Conway primary schools was agreed back in October 2010, just a little while before I was here. A 15-year strategy that looked at how education facilities in Conway would be reviewed and developed. The strategy shared that Conway is committed to ensuring that all children have equal opportunity to receive the best possible education. We must ensure that our school buildings, teaching resources and pupils' learning experiences are fit for purposes of today's world and can prepare our children and young people for tomorrow's world. The challenge we face is to ensure that our schools provide the appropriate environment, fit for purpose, to enable our children and young people to achieve life skills of the highest standard. This still remains, however, an awful lot has changed in the last 15 years. This report is asking Cabinet to adopt the new strategy for modernising learning communities. The strategy sets Conway's vision for the next 9 years, strategic objectives and drivers for change for schools in Conway. The strategy will be reviewed every 3 years. The key priorities of the strategy are to create environments that are fit for purpose, support learners with additional learning needs, reduce unfilled places, review post-16 education provision, promote the Welsh language and culture, financial sustainability, net zero, and the curriculum for Wales. A good practice, a public consultation period was held as good practice rather, a public consultation period was held from the 15th of July this year to the 15th of September and was also shared with all elected members in Conway. Feedback was thoroughly considered and subsequently discussed with key stakeholders, including head teachers, officers, members of the Capital Programme Board and members of the Strategic School Planning Group. Following these discussions, it was collectively agreed that the strategy was fit for purpose, and the recommendation from scrutiny is also that Cabinet agrees to adopt the strategy. So you'll see that strategy obviously within your report today, and I'm sure you've all had an opportunity to read that. I'm happy to recommend that the strategy for modernising learning communities be adopted. Do I have a seconder for that? Cynghorydd Dilwyn. And are there any comments or questions that anyone would like to make? Cynghorydd Gronwy.
Just a question, I don't know if I've missed it in the report. Something that has been on my mind for some time is the schools we have, such as John Bright, which are the PFI schools, and we need a long-term contingency. Obviously, that contract comes to an end in the end of this decade. And have we the provision in place to make sure that when that transition happens, we will be sustainably viable? Because it does give me great concern that in these last few years of those contracts or PFIs, will those schools be maintained to a standard that will allow us to take them over without significant financial cost?
Thank you. So I know that work has already begun. I know that the finance team are also working on that. I'm going to ask Lodi to come in. Amanda's obviously not here today, but Lodi can come in as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. A diolch Cynghorydd Gronwy am y cwestiwn dilys iawn. We have a PFI working group which includes officers from a range of service areas, finance, HR, the legal team, education officers, officers from leisure, and ERF, and the working group is chaired by Jenny. So a lot of work is underway in terms of considering what the options are, and we will bring a progress report through to SLT when the time is right. But just to reassure members that we are well aware of that end date looming. We are well aware of the risks and the potential risks to the local authority, which is why we're taking a cross-service approach to this and making sure that we've got a coordinated response.
Because obviously, I think we were told some years ago that we need to be planning well in advance, and I'm glad to hear that there is work going on, because the last thing I wanted to take on something that's going to cause a significant financial challenge in these difficult times. Thank you.
Thank you, Gronwy. And yes, as has been stated, it's good to hear that work is ongoing. Councillor Liz, and then Councillor Paul.
Thank you. I'd just like to say that I fully support this report. I think this strategy for modernising learning communities, which it says it in itself, modernising learning communities. And I do think, and I've read through this report, and I concur with everything that's in it, and for the fact that it is now maybe giving a wake-up call to some of our community schools to look at how they can work with education to improve on the buildings that we have and what facilities are in them and use them as community hubs. But I have to put a bit of a sting in the tail by saying that in the list that Gronwy referred to, where it tells you so many schools that possibly will be considered in this modernisation agenda, there is no mention of a rural school in it. And this is why I think that we have to bring rural schools into our discussions when we are modernising our communities to become community hubs as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Chair. At Education and Skills Overview Scrutiny, I explored this a little bit, but I just want to try and tie it down a bit more. My best understanding, so I'm testing my understanding, is that at present we are involved in detailed work in working up the GOGARTH proposals and the ERIAS proposals, and obviously attempting to secure the relevant funding for those. What concerns me slightly is I'm not clear, but this may be because I'm on none of these boards and groups, is what other schools in the county are having some, obviously not as detailed work as Gogarth and Arias, but detailed work being done to ensure that they're sort of, I think was raised earlier, shovel ready going forward when grants become available. And I suppose the question I'm really asking is, I may get some information today on what those schools are, but as an elected member, how do I learn about those discussions and debates that are going on about, if you like, the next wave of schools? Because I would like to be kept informed on that.
Okay, so that's come through education scrutiny, Paul, and it's available for you to read the reports if you weren't at. It's come through a number of times. It's the Sustainable Communities for Learning. It's a 9-year rolling programme. So the two schools you touched on there, Ysgol Arias and Ysgol Gogarth, are in the short term of that. So the years 1 to 3. Then you have the mid years, which are 4 to 6. The medium term, which is Ysgol Deganwy, Llanfair Fychan. And then you have the longer term, which is the years 7 to 9, which are Llandudno, and I think that's it, isn't it? Llandudno. So they're the schools currently that sit in that rolling 9-year programme, and they are what we will look to find a way of match funding that will currently be funded through capital funding. So we'd have to find 35% of that. The work is ongoing. The team have allocated areas that they're looking after. So that work is ongoing. In an ideal world, more money would become available, and perhaps we can look, and priorities may shift and change. You know, discussions that we've had today suggest that may well be the case. But certainly, in terms of opportunity to scrutinise that, there have been several opportunities where that's come through. We've looked at the dashboard, then we've looked at it when it's come back after point scoring and so on. That's come through a number of times, and obviously, Paul, you're welcome to come along to any of those meetings. I can't imagine there's anything further officers want to add to that. No. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, in which case we'll go back. Oh, sorry, Cynghorydd David Carr online.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Are we looking at reduced transportation needs? And one of the ways to do that is actually keeping local schools open, because that minimises the need for children to travel long distances. So, are we looking at transport costs, especially in the winter? You know, when the weather conditions are bad, and are we looking at retaining families in rural areas? Because the presence of a local school is one of the key factors in attracting new families to a village and encouraging existing young families to stay. So I think other members have made those points as well. So there's some things I'd like to look at, you know, when we're planning ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, you'll find on page 117 the strategic contributions that there we look at sustainable energy and transport as part of that. And obviously we work really closely with ERF in terms of looking at what is it, the walking to school, active travel. I always forget the name of that. So active travel obviously forms a big part of what we do, and ensuring families can walk to school. And I would go back on the point around the schools that were mentioned earlier by Gronwy and by yourself, Councillor David Carr, in so much as actually what happened up with the schools that closed. And we've got Ysgol Dolgarrog. I would encourage you to have a visit to that school, because it's actually hugely successful and it's a fantastic part of the community. And the work that ERF completed up there as well, in terms of making that sustainable, whether children want to cycle to school or walk to school, has actually been incredibly successful. So yes, it does form part of the strategic plan moving forward, part of the modernising learning communities, and it will continue to be a priority, I know, for the team, and certainly for me in terms of leader, and I know Aaron as the Cabinet Member for Education. So thank you for that. I'm going to go back to the agenda then. So I think I proposed, that was a little while ago, and was it Councillor Steve? Councillor Dillwyn seconded. Okay, in which case, if there's no further comments or questions, could we open the vote, please, Berwyn? Diolch. Okay, and can we close the vote? Thank you. Okay, and again, that was unanimous, and that was the last item on the agenda. Thank you, everyone. I know that it's not easy, is it, making some of these decisions, but I think it's good that we are giving our communities the opportunity to engage with us in the way that we've determined today. So I look forward to working on you with you when that information comes back. Thanks for a good meeting all. Diolch.